resiliency is and can be built over time. It's human nature to seek comfort in every situation, right? That's within our nature.
It feels good, man. It feels good, right? Yo, I'm in the light at the end of the tunnel. Paper stacks, yeah, I got them in the bundles. Harry Potter breaking bread with the muggles. They said I wouldn't make it, now they looking puzzled. They said I wouldn't take it, how to go and hustle.
All right, Ted, you ready to dial it in?
I'm ready. Ty, you ready?
Always.
Jim, you ready?
Let's go.
Let's kick off 2026.
Oh, geez. Wait. There we go.
Timeout. Tyler, who are we taking the timeout with today?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, children of America, we have the COO from Pilot Gas Stations, Jim Rose. All right, Jim. Welcome to 2026, dude. I've been working on that for the past 15 minutes, man. Your name is fun to say if you draw it out long. You know, it's a good one. But Jim, let's kick it off for 2026, man. So let's get into New Year's resolutions, and at the end of 2026, what would have to happen to make it a successful year for you?
Man, I don't know. First of all, 2026 is downhill from here based on that introduction. That was amazing. I don't know if I could top that. And one small correction: I'm not the COO. I am the VP of operations. So just a small stipulation there. But anyway, let's see. New Year's resolutions. I'm kind of a dud, guys. I don't do New Year's resolutions. Only because I always feel like nothing really changes except for the calendar. Mm-hmm. Right. And I feel like if there's something that I was committed to, adamant about, it's being January 1st won't make that happen. Do you think about goals that you want to accomplish through the year? Sure. But I do think that, the stats say that most New Year's resolutions last just a couple of weeks. Yeah. And so not interested in that. It's all about long-term sustainable changes that will help you grow. So, yeah.
Well, I love that because I think the January, the gym is always packed until the second or third week of January. But yeah, and I think it's hard for a lot of people because you make those promises with yourself. It's like, oh, I'm going to hold myself to this, and then you fall short of that, and then it just snowballs into other bad decisions because you're like, well, I already missed out on that opportunity. But to your point, Jim, it's just a change of a calendar. So you really want to make the change. I mean, every day could be the first of the year.
That's right. So always amazing intentions.
Correct.
But unless you really think about why you aren't doing the things that you would like to be doing, and if you don't change that within your own thought process, then January 1st doesn't help that. So.
100%. Well, I did learn and know that you're from Tonawanda, North Tonawanda, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And so we do have a playoff game coming up this weekend. But who is your number one all-time Bills player?
Oh, that's a tough one, man. All-time
great
Bills player. I think it's Bruce Smith.
Oh, nice.
It's got to be Bruce Smith, man. That was the era of the heydays, my formative years as a Bills fan, right? Remember winning the first division title in 1988 and kind of heydays from there. But that was he'll be number one. There's a few others, but 100%.
So seeing the last game at the Ralph over the weekend, did you find yourself crying, tearing up, bringing back any of the old game memories that you had been to?
I didn't cry, but it is nostalgic. It's interesting. I watch football every weekend, and sometimes when you see teams win and they show the fans in tears, folks that aren't connected to sports or what sports really mean to them don't understand it. So oftentimes my wife is like, "Why is this guy crying?" And the answer could be simple. The answer could be that this person went to a football game with his father every single year for 15 years, and he's watching his team do something that they've never done, and he's thinking about the memories, right? And so I definitely had that feeling watching the game, just thinking about folks that I would watch the game with, my uncle who introduced me to sports, who's no longer with us. So it definitely goes through your mind like, man, Uncle Tim would be so excited to watch this happen, watch them make the playoffs for the first time in 2018 that he didn't see for 18 years, those types of things. And so I can relate to the nostalgia, and I can't even imagine what it would be like for the players and some of the folks that have come up through the organization and have seen the highs and lows in that stadium. So it's more than just a building. There's a lot of memories within that. So
absolutely.
Pretty powerful stuff.
Even here in what is it, Kutchko, or with the long-term announcer for the Bills they had on, and they were interviewing him.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Have you ever seen the Four Falls of Buffalo?
I don't want to cry, man. Like, I'm a Bills guy now. Like, that's,
I don't know if is this at the entrance of the stadium?
No, it's the 30 for 30, right?
Yeah. Dude, you got to check it out.
I can't click on it, man. Should I watch it?
It's gut-wrenching, but it is. It really is. It is, because it just, and the key characters are the old-time Bills. So like Smith, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, they actually help narrate it. And so as they're going through all the things that had happened, Scott Norwood plays a big role. Wow. And they show him today. It's a good one, even if you're not a Bills fan. But as a Bills fan, you'll be... You talk about.
Can I watch that before Sunday or after Sunday? What do you think?
I'd watch it before Sunday.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Jim. I'll watch it now. I've seen it a million times. I just keep going back fast. I'm like, man, because you guys brought me to the dark side. Like my first few years up there, I was like, nah, man, I'll just stick with my hogs down there. But then I was like, God, y'all don't stop. Like, I can respect the integrity, and it's just fun. For some reason, it's fun. Like, hard things are fun. Like, just, it wouldn't be fun if y'all have won before, right? Or if but like, and yet how talented the team is. But Jim, let's talk about sports a little bit, dude. I coached my first 6th grade team in basketball last night, man. Our first practice.
No way.
And I had one team called Teamwork, and one team, other 5 were Team Hustle. And what I was explaining to them was, and Jim, I come from a whole family of farmers and coaches. It's just in my blood. I was so fired up last night on my way there. But what I was trying to hone in on it is like, if these kids just understand the value of teamwork and hustle, how far it can get them in life.
Yeah.
And the other kicker I threw in was next play. So if you get fouled or a foul's called on you, our whole team together says next play. So can you kind of elaborate on that, Jim, on what you find in sports, on the teamwork and just simply hustling in life, where that kind of gets people or where it got you?
Yeah, teamwork, hustle, and the third one, next play, is really sounds like resiliency, right? The ability to go, hey, this didn't go right, let's shake it off. And, I think that the most successful folks that I've worked with and the most successful that I've been in my career was when, as cliche as it sounds, was when I've been on a team that had a high level of teamwork, that had a want for the team to win and not just individuals. And so I think that's super key. And as you mentioned, teamwork and team hustle, the first inkling is like, well, that sounds kind of corny, but when you really think about what it means and how you explained it, it is what wins. And if you think about the greatest teams in history, you think about, as much as pains me to say this, know where I'm going. The New England Patriots. As much as I, by the way, let me digress for a second. Do you know that in Tom Brady's tenure, his record was against Buffalo?
I don't remember them losing.
It's going to sound not real, but this is a real stat. 33-3 against the Bills.
Wow.
So you were a Bills fan for 18 years and you saw 3 wins.
Yeah. I remember one. I was in college. And that was the year I thought we were going to the playoffs.
Yeah. and by the way, like, you would have given up every game just to beat the Patriots twice. That would have been, you could go to 2 wins and it would have been worth it. Anyway, I think that is probably the largest and the most recent example of a team that had a concept of non-individualism and was able to go through cycles throughout the span of 18 years. And so when you think about what's happening with Kansas City today, right, there's, oh my gosh, is the era over? Well, That's what everybody was saying about the Patriots in 2007 and then 2009. And I just think that has been an organization that personalities were never bigger than the grade of the team, and look what they were able to accomplish. And that's one example. There's dozens of them. And so I think your coaching to the kids is right on and exactly how it should be. And I do think the hustle is an underestimated skill set or thought process, right? There's going to be equal skill sets, equal levels of education, equal levels of experience. And those that are willing to take the harder paths, put in the work, are the ones that will get the edge. And so I think when you combine those together, that's critical. The other piece, and you didn't call it this, but when I hear you say the next play, that's really about being resilient, right? And I think you can build resilience over time just by doing hard things. And I think we talked about that a bit on our last discussion that didn't work out. I had bad Wi-Fi, but I do think that's so critical because your mindset and your ability to be a great teammate, your ability to hustle is personal, in my opinion. And I think that when you have a level of resiliency and a perspective that like, hey, I missed this exit, there's no reason to cut over 4 lanes. They made more ahead. And I'm just going to move forward. It's going to take me in the same direction and I'm going to get another chance and give it the best. I think that's so critical. So,
and I love how you put that, because I've been thinking about how much grace I give externally, right? And really hard on myself, right? So I wasn't displaying that same level of grace with myself. Like if I missed something or I didn't do something that I promised myself that I would, you start getting into that negative mindset. And I was also this morning in the sauna talking to this guy. He was like 7 years old. He just recently had his knee replaced and he wanted to tell me all about it. So I said, sure. Yeah. But we were talking about physical therapy and he was like, oh, I only went 3 times. They gave me my exercises and I've been doing it at home. He was telling me all about his degrees of motion. I was like, this is great. And I said, isn't that funny though? Because that's kind of the area that I started in before I actually graduated college. But seeing the people that needed physical therapy just for the accountability piece, right? So they would go multiple days not doing any of the exercises. Then they would come, not see as much progress. Yeah. And then we kind of started talking about that. And it kind of goes hand in hand with, is it our mind? Is it our body? Is it our soul that ultimately, and I think it's our mind, that wants us to find the path of least resistance? Is that our norm? Like, is that our desire, is to find simplicity within predictability, but also ease? Like, that's where I start to get confused, because we've heard all the cliches, right? Like, step outside your comfort zone. And,
sure. Yeah.
Right. And then how you put it, right? No, the do hard things. I love that. But like, how do you break that inertia? Because I was telling Tyler, I got to the gym this week for the first time because I did take that New Year's resolution, except mine didn't start on the first. Gym. In my defense, my New Year's never starts until Monday. But I went, and you're there, and it's like, why the heck did it take me this long to get to this? Because this is what I've been missing. And it's just like this little inertia is what I was explaining to Tyler. Yeah. It's like, how could I not overcome that and always find an excuse or distraction to not do it?
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. First, let me go back to it. I hope it didn't sound like I crapped on all New Year's resolutions, because I do think that
not at all.
Studies do say that if that's the only motivation, they don't work. But anybody who's trying to better themselves and pick a date, it's all good. All moves in the right direction, and they probably just need structure and motivation. My opinion, my experience, things that I've read, things that I've practiced is about, resiliency is and can be built over time. Mm-hmm. So your question about, path of least resistance, I do think it's human nature to seek comfort in every situation, right? That's within our nature. That's what helped us survive thousands and thousands of years, right? Mm-hmm. And so the idea of doing hard things it sounds easy. Let's do hard things, right?
Yeah.
I think that everybody's perception of hard things is very different based on your experience, right? And so you telling kids to shake off a bad play or a loss, man, that might have been the hardest thing that they've had to deal with ever. Maybe, right? And for somebody else that has more experience, they've been through that multiple times, and so they know how to deal with it, know how to process it. There may be somebody on that team that had a very hard upbringing, and this is nothing, right? So the idea of resetting your nervous system, right, is, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second, but the idea of resetting your nervous system is everybody's is different, right? And so like you may be in a game, fourth quarter, and that may be the most stressful thing that you've ever been through. Just happens, maybe, but it may not be based on your experience. And I do think that when I talk about really going out in life and doing hard things, putting yourselves into situations or things that you don't want to do just to get through it does help build that. And so, and what I mean by everybody's is different. It's like there could be a dude that's stuck in rush hour traffic that's super stressful, and his central nervous system can't differentiate between that and getting attacked by a bear. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. And so I do think that's important. And like, none of us want to do hard things. You probably don't want to tell your wife that she hurt your feelings, right? But when you do, you have a better conversation. You probably don't want to get into the ice bath. It sucks, it hurts, but you do it because, right? Because you know the benefits. And so, yeah, but my point is like, go out, push yourself. Yeah. And then when you get into situations in life, you're in a boardroom, maybe you're not as stressed, because this situation that I'm in today does not compare to the things that I've done out of the boardroom. The questions that are coming in that might be stressing other people out are nothing compared to the 13,000 foot climb that you did 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah. So that's the idea of resiliency, and how you continue to build it so that each situation that you approach just triggers that response less and less, because like, this isn't as bad as these four things I've done. So I love just how you put it. But to go back to your point, I think the New Year's resolution, you were spot on, right? Yeah. I think the limiting beliefs, right? Yeah. What is preventing me from reaching that ceiling, right? To go to the next floor. I think you're 100%. I went through a lot of reflection on Friday and Saturday, and really realize like prioritizing yourself sometimes feels wrong, especially as a dad, as a husband, as a leader, right? Putting yourself first seems like almost counterproductive, because it's like, wait, I have all these other people to care for. But it wasn't until I think I got back to that point where putting myself at the center first, where it was like that's what broke that inertia for me. It was like, no, you need this because of this. Yeah. And it's okay. And so I loved how you put that. But yeah, I had a limiting belief in there, and that festered over time, and until you honestly take a hard look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself, that's where I was like, holy shit, this is get off that track real quick if you're not paying attention. So I know Tyler's going to jump in on the ice baths, because
you saw my eyes. And Joe, I just want to take a sec to say thanks for doing this with us, man. Like, everybody needs a shot of Jim Rose, in their life. Like, I'm serious. And I mean that. And I was also thinking, Jim, I was just feeling like a big jabroni asking Jim Rose about New Year's resolutions. Because my thing is if you're on the New Year, the Saturdays don't matter. The weekend doesn't matter to me if I'm on, because I'm doing all the right things. I'm aligned. I'm active, all the things. But dude, real quick on the cold plunge, dude. I just did my first one up in Bentonville, Arkansas. Jim, the coolest experience of my life. It was like the sauna and then the 48-degree plunge for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about your experience, Jim. Dude, I had the most open prayer afterwards. Like, my vessel felt opened up. And it took me 41 years to shock my nervous system for the first time, right? Is what happened. Have you had any spiritual experiences with the plunge? And do you feel like excited and calm at the same time after it?
I do, man. I do. I have one at home.
That's
awesome. And I use it probably 3 days a week or so. And I also, one of those days, I'll do what you talked about, transition, hot tub, cold plunge. There is a bit of a euphoric feeling afterward, as your body starts, your core temperature starts to warm itself up. That's where the adaptations start to take place. That's where the blood flow kicks in. And so, I wouldn't say that I felt a spiritual experience, but I can see why. I could understand the state that you felt that you were in, for sure. But I love it.
It was so gnarly, dude. Like afterwards, me and my buddy went to Starbucks next door, and he went and got us coffees, and I just bowed my head and just started praying out of nowhere, and it felt like my vessel to the universe was just wide open for the first time probably ever, really. And I think I texted Kevin right after. I was like, dude, I found out something. And so Jim, you have one at home. What degrees do you get it down to?
I keep it at 39 degrees. Yeah.
Lake Erie. Yeah.
I keep it at 39. I started doing ice baths I'd go to the ice store and buy, 10 pounds of ice, and it was a big situation, and that's not sustainable, obviously, in Arizona. So I found a company called Desert Plunge, and I keep it outside. It's got its own chiller. It's got its own filtration system, and it's amazing. I started, the adaptations will occur at 60 degrees. I'm not an expert. This is just the research, the studies that I've done, what I've listened to. And so you do start to get cold adapted over time. You could relate to that, Kevin, living in Rochester, right? You and I would feel very
different. Takes me a couple weeks. Yeah.
Right. And then if you came here to Arizona, you could tell if somebody's a native because your body does adjust. And so over time, in order to capture sort of the same feelings, you'll start to decrease the temperature of the ice bath. It only goes to 39. I don't have any interest in going any lower than that. And so I do that. I do that a few days a week, 5 minutes at a time, first thing in the morning. And it's
5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. But again, it's you have to work up to that. I think if you've never done it before and you try to jump into an ice bath I witnessed somebody try to do that. So quick story. We were in the backyard last summer, and my daughter's boyfriend was over, and he'd never done an ice bath before. And he was asking the same questions as you. Hey, how long do you go in? Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, 5 minutes. And he's like, I could do 5 minutes. I don't remember what we bet, but I bet him something that he couldn't do 2 minutes.
I'm not dating my daughter anymore. No, just kidding.
that he couldn't do 2 minutes. And so, of course, he took the bet, jumped in. I started the stopwatch. 6 seconds.
Oh my gosh!
Jumped out.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So it is. It's definitely. It's harder than it looks or sounds. Yeah. There's also something about water that conducts heat differently, right? You could walk around in 39-degree weather. It's cold, but you don't feel like you need to escape, right?
Correct.
Or you can walk around in 100-degree air and you get in a 100-degree hot tub and it's scalding. So there's definitely something about the water that conducts the temperature very differently. Yeah. So
do you submerge your head too?
I normally don't. Sometimes at the end I'll do a little dunk, but it's neck down for sure. Yeah.
So on my second on my second one I submerged the head, and oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
But what I felt like, it was kind of hard to get up out of the water. I felt like my weight, my body was weighted down in a way.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is my first one ever. At least I lasted more than 6 seconds. But but just what it did for me. And I'm going tomorrow at 2:30. Having another one lined up. I'm kind of hooked on it. So gradually, I'll get better at it, or it won't affect me as much. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, gradually. I also think about what we talked about a little bit earlier. Your level of resiliency. It just starts to reset, right? So you'll go, okay, man, I could do 30 seconds. Can I do a minute? I could do a minute. Can I do 2 minutes? Et cetera. There comes a point in time where there's diminishing return, like the difference between, again, studies say, I'm not posing to be an expert, but the studies do say the difference between 5 minutes and 3 minutes, there's no benefit. The difference between 5 and 7, there's no benefit. And so, there's definitely different protocols out there that talk about how long you should be in. But for me, I like 5 minutes. It's just a good round number. And I'm just used to it. And part of it is about resiliency. Can you stand it? Can you stand it?
So to our listeners and Kevin, man, guys, this is no joke. This 5 minutes at 39 degrees. I just wanted to jump in.
So listen, I have always, both of my daughters are dating now, and I take a lot of, I do take a lot of pride in being a good role model to them. And I don't, it doesn't feel like what I thought it would 10 years ago. Like, you're going to flex on them and be clean out your guns, those kind of things. So I don't do those kind of things. I do try to bring them in, but this was a flex. And so after the 6 seconds, I decided, what I should do right now is just slowly lower myself in there with no reaction at all and sit there for 5 minutes and get out like it was nothing. Now I was faking it. It hurts.
But I wasn't going to let him know that.
Well, yeah. So that was the one and only flex that I've exercised over the past couple of years.
That's really cool.
But Jim, I got to ask you, man. Like you're a guy who I feel that just has it going on. So when you get to that point of being productive, active, eating right, I know you take meals with you to meal prep. I think when you're on the road, you take it very seriously.
Yeah.
What I get into, man, is I'll plateau. But I don't recognize how amazing that plateau that I'm on is. Like, I was doing I was doing box jumps at age 40, working on my vertical 9 months ago, like ripping rebounds again. But in my mind, I plateaued. Fast forward 3 months from there, when I messed up for 4 weeks in a row, I would have paid a lot of money to get back on that plateau that I was on.
Yeah.
How do you stay there, and how do you know that you're just in a good spot, even if you're not seeing dramatic results anymore, because I think your results start to diminish a little bit, just like the plunge we were talking about with whatever you're doing. But how do we trick our minds that's where it's at, man? That's where Tyler's got to be. Doing box jumps at age 40? Let's do it. How does Jim Rose stay there is what I'd like to hear from you.
It's a good question. I don't know if I've ever thought about it that way. But I do think you get to a point where you realize that whether it's a plateau, you're just where you want to be. I think that's part of your mindset. But I'm always seeking to be better in some way, and you have to define what that is, right? And so, at a point in your life, it may be, I want to lose 20 pounds. Well, that's not going to happen when you get to a certain body composition. That's just not your goal anymore. Or I want to gain muscle, or I want to improve my heart rate variability, or I want to lower my resting heart rate. So there's always something that I'm looking for to improve, but it's obviously less drastic than it may have been when I was in a different state or than another person. And so I still think seeking improvement is important, but those improvements may be very, very different. It's interesting. I had a really deep conversation with a good friend of mine that had a heart attack, and he is and was in very good shape, and he had a bodybuilding background, and so he was, did competition, super jacked, ended up having a heart attack out of the blue, and the conversation that we had was, mentally, when you're a bodybuilder, and that's what you've done for as long as you can remember, your idea of the ideal state is that. And so what we talked about is just a resetting of redefining what fitness means in his mind. Mm-hmm. It may not be to be on the stage again, but what could it be for you? And it may be that he wants to run marathons. He may want to just change his body composition. Maybe he wants to go climb mountains. And so I do think no matter what it is, you don't have to be finished. And there may be points in your life where you just have to change your idea, your ideal of where you want to be. And then when you change that ideal of what you want to be, that will change your behaviors, what you want to go after, right? Like, why are you doing an ice bath? You weren't doing that before, right? You're doing it for a reason.
Right.
And whatever your goal is, you just have to continue resetting that. So I don't think the idea of plateauing there's many points in folks' life where they say, I'm good here. I don't want to do X, Y, Z. I don't need to make more money. I don't need a bigger house, those types of things. But I do think that there should always be something within you that you're seeking to improve. Mm-hmm. And that's that's just how I think about it. That's what motivates me to say, okay, what am I adjusting to continue to progress so that I don't feel stagnant. So,
well, and Jim, your word carries a lot of weight, buddy. I want you to know that. Like I am locked into every word you're saying, and that's why I'm asking you these not secret sauce questions. But I was going to ask, do you ever see yourself in other people? Like do you ever meet somebody and they have a couple characteristics, and you're like, that dude or that gal's got it? Feel it in you a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good question for sure. Yeah, there's a group of 3 or 4 people that I do like hard activities with over the course of the year, and there's one person in particular that's been there for every one of them. And so yeah, and I think to us, the way that we think about what we want to accomplish seems normal to us, right? And to others, again, it's all about folks' perception. It's like, why would you want to do that, or what the, So yeah, for sure, I do think, 100%. I don't think that's different for me than it is like everybody should find things in common with other people. It could be that you enjoy bird watching. It could be whatever it is, right? And other folks might not be able to relate to it. You're like, why the hell would you want to go look at birds for 2 hours, right? But for sure, yeah, there's a couple folks that I know that are in for whatever it is that we plan on doing. So
and I feel that in people too. And the reason that I thought about it, Jim, was like a couple months ago, I watched a older Chappelle special on Netflix, and he was talking about a dreamer knows a dreamer. Yeah, I was like, and then that's when I got to that plateau not mindset, but like, when did we stop dreaming, or when did I stop dreaming, or goal setting? Dreaming and goal setting sort of runs hand in hand to me, at least. But Jim, how do you keep that dream going as like a kid again? Like, you got to a certain point in your life, but what's like the next dream? Or do you even think about that? Or are you just super zen and being is all good with you? But I guess like, and my question is, how do we dream again, man? That's like my mantra lately. How do I dream again?
That's a really good question.
A dreamer knows a dreamer.
The dreamer knows a dreamer. Well, 2 things. Back to your question about like finding people that have similar interests. We didn't word it that way, but that you can do things with that other people would think insane. You've been training jujitsu, right? For a bit now. And I think if you were to pool the average person, some may think that it would be insane that you voluntarily spend your time a few hours a week in this strenuous situation, being choked, those types of things. And folks would be like, why the heck would you want to do that? But everybody in that room with you gets it. There's a reason that we train, and there's something that you get out of it. And so that's yours. Okay. So your question about dreaming, I'll go back to this group of folks. We're always looking to like, we actually have a group, our group text is called What's Next. That's the name of the group text. And so it's like, throw it out. What's the wackiest thing that we want to try to accomplish this year? And one of the philosophies that we adopted, it's not our philosophy. There's a book called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. I don't know, you might have heard of it. It's amazing. I think it should be mandatory reading for everybody. But one of the philosophies was that you should do a couple of really, really tough things a year. And tough meaning that there is a 50 to 60% chance, I may be wrong in the percentage, that you will fail. Yeah. And so go back to what we talked about before, like you're when you are trying to do really hard things, you will fail sometimes. You're not always going to accomplish. And I always think that's good because that helps build resiliency and go like, okay, I might have failed. We may not have accomplished this peak or whatever it was, but what we did was harder than what 99% of the folks out there in the world are doing right now. That's a very different feeling. And so our idea of dreaming, in your words, is that it's like, what's next? What are we going to do? And then when you choose that, you start to then say, okay, what are the set of behaviors and stuff that I need to do to be ready between now and then? So you did ask that earlier, like, what is it that keeps you from plateauing? It's also that. It's also like, let's pick something that is going to make me change my behaviors. Because if I sign up for this now and did it tomorrow, I couldn't do it. What do I need to do to be ready for that? So,
dude, pick something to fail. I love it, man.
Yeah.
You know, at least have that little fear of it. You know,
yeah.
It's not going to be a cupcake walk or anything.
Yeah. The first two rules were do something really hard. And the second rule is don't die. There's 4 or 5 others, but it's an amazing book. So I try to stay very close to the don't die. That's important. So that should be goal number 1, really. But
I got a lot of thoughts going on right now. I'm envisioning Tyler as kicking and screaming Will Ferrell, coaching his team. But at the same time, I keep going back to the nervous system. I think we were talking about it earlier, and kind of just hearing you explain resiliency. And I love the phrases that I'll be walking away with today. You know, shock the system, do hard things. But I think to your earlier point is ultimately fear is what controls most of us.
Yeah.
And fear of the unknown is why most people don't change. And I found it, one of the best practices that was given to me was when I'm apprehensive to take action or to do something, dissecting what I'm actually afraid of. Because it's like this ball, right? Yeah. And until I started pulling out those individual strands, then I turned around and told Tyler, and I was like, what the hell am I actually afraid of? I'm not afraid of this.
Love that.
I'm not afraid of this.
Yeah.
But I think we've said like that Tyler, you refer to it as a plateau, but your mind is almost telling you at the same time, hey, it's good enough. Like, why more? And I have found, right, holding myself accountable, making those promises helps me build trust in myself, but overcoming something that my mind told me I couldn't, or I shouldn't, or you can't. To me, that got me back in alignment. Right. Where not my mind was making all my conscious decisions for me, but now I was in alignment with mind, body, and soul. And almost once I did reach that pinnacle, or I did achieve that goal, it was proving that my mind was lying to me all along. Right. Yeah. And it's not always true. And it's not always factual.
Love it.
And that's kind of, I think, what resilience, in my opinion, after hearing this conversation today, really is like resilience is the ability of an individual to control their mind, right? So, and have their emotions, right? And their feelings, and those form thoughts, and thoughts form actions, and actions form habits.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'm going to be walking away with is really just this symposium, right? It's all these pieces that I had, but really clearly, transparently identifying that when you do these things and you overcome these blocks that you're technically putting on yourself,
so true,
is really where you're proving it to yourself and building that trust. And as you build that trust, it helps with the self-acceptance, the self-love, and all that other stuff. And I wanted to get back to, so I brought up, I thought our first conversation with the poor Wi-Fi was a fantastic conversation. I'm bummed that nobody got to hear it, but I want to go back to something that we talked about. Something that I hear time and time again, curiosity, right? Killed the cat. And then we also have this sentiment of being alone. I got the opportunity this morning to read a book to my son's class because they celebrate his half birthday because his birthday happens to fall in July. So here I am reading to a bunch of 4-year-olds, and my wife was like, "What book do you want to read?" And I was like, "I have this great book. It's called Be You, and it's a kid's book." But one of the pages talks about being alone and embracing being alone. But I feel, as I was saying that to the class, right, in school, you're almost trained to never be alone, right? Always be there for your friends. And if you are alone, you're kind of looked at a little bit differently. And it brought me immediately in my own mind that I heard the phrase for curiosity killed the cat was actually care killed the cat. So I think curiosity got a bad rap and being alone also got a bad rap. But the last time we talked, Jim, and I thought it was one of the most significant things from our conversation was that you make the conscious decision to spend a lot of time alone in your own mind and your own thoughts.
Yeah.
What have you learned from that? How do you make that a repetitive practice? How did you limit the distractions and put things aside to prioritize that alone time for yourself?
Yeah, it's really good. You know, in my childhood, I spent a lot of time alone. Yep. And so I became very good at it. and you know, not by choice always, but you know, I had but for reasons I spent a lot of alone time, and that gave me the opportunity to explore stuff. I would like take things apart and put them back together to learn how they worked and that type of thing. And so I don't know if that type of mindset was already in me and I had the opportunity to express it, or if it was developed based on my circumstances. But for whatever reason, I became good at being alone, and I'm okay with it. I am an extrovert. Like, I love being around people, but I also enjoy time in isolation. And it is a really great reset where there's no distractions. You get to think about what's happening in your life at work. You get to work through problems on your own, and then think about, like, how am I going to use others to help me with these problems? But I always feel like there's just something magical just about being alone. For me, in nature, I like to go out hikes alone by myself and just think. And in addition to thinking, I'll still listen to podcasts and those types of things. So I'm not totally isolated, but I do think time alone, learning about yourself is really important. The other part for me is that I go back to kind of doing hard things. It's harder to do hard things alone.
Oh, big time.
I was going to ask you
the PT thing.
Yeah. You can't, there's nobody watching. There's nobody knowing if you finished what you set out to do. And to me, that's important. And believe me, there's been times where I've done things alone and I thought, no, I don't want to, but I'm gonna have to go back and tell people what I said I was going to do. And so I'm doing it. It doesn't matter. So sometimes there's a motivation that you're with folks and you don't want to let them down. But I do think sometimes there's a personal motivation about I'm here to learn about myself. I'm here to push myself, and that's what I'm going to do. So to me, those are really the two things reasons I like to do things sometimes alone or in isolation, and that's what I get out of it.
But I think, to your point, doing it alone, now you're not doing it for anybody else, for their expectations or fear of their judgment. And ultimately, I think that's why I think Tyler and I mean, your energy is totally different, right? I see somebody that is aligned, like almost unshakable, right? So like a resilience to a different level where, I mean, you could be stuck in traffic with a burning car and 30 feet away from you, and I still think that Jim Rose is probably going to be cool as ice. You know?
Save the day is what he's going to do.
Yeah, well, that too, but under pressure, you know. And I think you only get to that point when you know who you are ultimately. Like, you're not guessing. You're not still trying to figure it out. You may still try to be figuring out some of these small nuances. But somebody that isn't going to be told how to think or what to think or how to feel or how to act or how to behave. And maybe that's part of the upbringing, right? So one of the like you mentioned, like a hidden blessing in that, because I think in that communal is important. And I think that human beings, like we are empowered when we're in that community. However, it can also coddle us and disable us at the same time.
I agree.
To your point about teamwork, you know, it's like, where is that give and take? Because you also need some of that initiative and that drive as an individual to take that responsibility. And just hearing you talk, I think you were able to form your own opinion while the rest of us were being told, well, you can't do this and you shouldn't do that. And don't yell, use your inside voice. and we're constantly trying to chisel away at the individuality of the person by telling them these social norms and these social standards.
Yeah. The other part of my upbringing, I'll get a little bit deep here, I guess, but, I grew up in Tonawanda, New York, and I was always the only. I was always the only. And so you just get used to being different. So being different than everybody else and having it pointed out to you like repeatedly becomes normal. And I do think that that can cause trauma to some, but I think there's other people that rise out of that learning like, okay, now I have a better understanding of how I can make friends and how can I communicate with people in a way that I can connect. How am I feel comfortable just not being the same as everybody else? And so I think then in life, when you're doing things that are different than others, or you have ideas, or you want to present something at work, it's just normal for it to be weird and different, because I've always been weird and different. And so, so for all the weird kids out there, I was one. Truth. It's an amazing experience as long as you realize that it's good to be different, because you won't see what somebody who's uncomfortable in their skin will see.
Yeah.
Because being the weird person at work is that I am the weird dude at work. I am the one with the quirky ideas and the silly jokes and playing music on our WebExes, and I don't care. It doesn't, it's like that's just the way that
you fear no judgment at that point.
Yeah, right.
Nobody has the ability to take that headspace. And And I think to your point, it's funny. The three words that you just used, they're in that book. It says, be weird, be quirky, be hot, be unique, be different, right? And instead of everybody trying to fit this mold, and this mold is, it's kind of these false personifications of the individual. And I loved how Tyler said, have you ever been able to just identify greatness? And I've been on the other side. Things that drive me absolutely nuts about other people is usually what I don't like most about myself.
Yeah.
So that's how I saw the other side of that. So I can see both sides of that coin. And until somebody worded it to me that way, I was like, holy shit. Right? That mirror exercise is so powerful. And that's why I think the three of us, I embrace feedback all the time. And I think, to me, I also learned the difference of being nice and being kind. And I probably lean more on the nice side, right? How do I package this in such a way that they're not going to be offended, and it's not going to, and by the end of it, you've distilled that message so much that now clarity is lacking. What is that person really trying to say? And I think ultimately kindness, and this is kind of going to lead into the leadership question that I have for you, but how do you bring kindness where it is giving that direct feedback as a gift to that other individual to help them overcome those limiting beliefs or these handcuffs that they put themselves in that nobody else is putting on them?
Yeah, so good. We keep going back to the same concept of resiliency, doing hard things. And I think that applies to this. So your perception of what a tough conversation would be is different than others, based on your experiences. And so I think the more you put yourself into situations to have conversations, the easier it is. I also think that if we're being honest, most of the time, we say we're trying to protect the person's feelings that we're going to give feedback to, but what we're really doing is we're trying to protect ourselves from their reaction. Correct. That's really what, right?
And unpredictability, right? Because now it's unpredictable.
Yeah. Because if I told you, hey, you're going to go and have what you're perceiving as a really tough conversation with Willie, whoever, and Willie's going to be amazingly thrilled, you're going to do it. It's not hard anymore, right? So what you're really worried about is how Willie will respond to you. And sometimes we hide that underneath of like, well, I want to be nice. And there is truth to that, right? Yeah. There is care for the other person. But I think oftentimes if we really reflect, what we're anxious about is that person's reaction. Yeah. And so I think, I had some really, really great advice from a boss early on in my career. And he made this analogy about tough conversations that, number one, there really isn't such thing. There is, right? There really is. But in general, we build conversations up to be tough conversations.
Yeah.
And the analogy that he gave was amazing. He said, I want you to imagine that you're standing and there's a little bit of a crack in the earth here. Okay. And it's just 2 inches wide. Every time you pass up the opportunity to say what needs to be said to a person, it would have been just a quick little step and it's over with. Now it's 4 inches. Still not too bad. You could have, mentioned and addressed it, but you see where I'm going. Over time, now you're going to have to take a running leap, and you've got all this anxiety. You're going to fall through this crack when all you had to do was start it as an ongoing conversation from the beginning. And I just thought it's a pretty damn amazing depiction of what we're doing to ourselves when we don't have conversations with folks, and how now it is a tough conversation because we've allowed it to grow instead of just taking that first step.
And I think that's where I find resentment builds, right? Because now I hate that environment that I helped create, but ultimately I helped create.
Yeah.
And now you're resentful of that environment. I love that analogy. That's powerful.
And now the other person is like, why didn't you just a year ago this, why did we let it build? So it was an amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love how you I love that you held up the mirror. Ultimately it's to protect yourself. And I think it's an element of control, and control is safety. So it's an element of fear, like we've been talking about throughout the entire episode. Thanks for sharing that bestowed wisdom from that old manager, because that's powerful.
Yeah.
And I will be putting that in my pocket and walking away with it.
Dave Caspers, if you're listening, that was yours.
Dave, I can feel that in my gut. I can see it widening and widening, and me like stretching my legs out, trying to get over that gap even more. Oh.
Yeah. Pretty soon you're Buddy the Elf on the escalator, right? Stretching out like that.
Yeah. And Jim, I wanted to go back to that our conversation on different real quick.
Yeah.
Do you ever find being different gives you like a superpower of, how do I say this best? Of you can't freak me out, if you know what I mean by that. Like you can't, like whatever you're about to say is going to be okay, and you can't out freak me out. Trust me, I don't, because I'm different too, Jim. If you can't tell, man, I kind of walked through my own beat of my own drum my whole life, but always 100%. Different. Yeah. But I also can't be freaked out. Agreed. And I think that's the ultimate power of being a leader. People can come to me and they can say anything. I'm talking anything to me.
Yes.
Because guess what? I've freaking been there. I've been almost X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But like, do you, I guess if you want to riff on that a little bit, do you feel that ever? If someone comes to you and you're like, I dare you to throw me a curveball.
Yeah, I do. I think that's just another way to define what we talked about. I think that is a positive attribute of being different. That there's because what the person that is sharing something with you maybe worry that you're going to freak out because what they're bringing to you is different or unorthodox or unpopular or whatever it may be, and you're like, that's my world. I don't like it's okay. It's
what else you got? Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. And just back to the teamwork and team hustle type mentality here. Like there's nothing more beautiful that I see in life when a team starts to click. Like it's just, even on the basketball court, especially when you got 5 dudes out there not thinking and they're having fun, they're getting back on D, they're ripping boards, they're finishing at the rim, they're passing. But here's the deal, guys. Like there's it's hard to coach that, even in business world or on the 6th grade basketball court. But once you see it, it's just this magical flow state. But I guess, Jim, what do you do, man? Like, how do you get? Because I know you want your team like that. If I know Jim,
no doubt. Yeah, I think the term that we use at the company that I work for today is affinity. And when you build affinity with your team, that is what you get, what you're discussing. I think the misconception of affinity is that it's built by going out and, after hours and, hanging out and drinking and those types of things. That doesn't hurt. But real affinity is built by building trust within each other, in my opinion, through the workplace, through working on projects, through going through trials and tribulations and having to lean on each other in those types of things. And I do think that is what builds that lack of individualism, so that you want the betterment of the team to take precedence over your individual performance in those types of things. So I do think that's how you build, if you need to build affinity within the team, and the team just has to love the mission. Like everybody on that team has to want to win. And that's the number one goal. And what you do within your practices, within your meetings, within projects with each other should always be pushing in that direction. And there should be a high level of, another word that we use a lot is interdependence, right? When you build interdependence, that helps drive affinity, so that you can work together and know that I need to depend on Kevin and Tyler, because without them, I'm not going to be successful. That's what interdependence is all about.
Absolutely. And out of fear, I mean, I'm been learning too. It's like you feel like it's almost better if you just do it yourself, right? I know I'll get done the right way, right? Yeah. And I loved how you put it though, that without failing, right? It's like then they're not growing and they're not learning and you're not challenging them. But that affinity, like you talked about in the group, it almost allows for this elasticity, right? That's where that grace comes in. A little bit more understanding. And I think we've all heard it. The interdependence I love too, because I always use the word empowerment, but what does that really mean, right? What does enablement and encouragement really look like? But the shared responsibilities, I think, builds that accountability, that understand within that interdependence. I absolutely loved how you said that. And I just want to go back to one other thing, because I think you nailed it. It's like your perception of the world, you believe that others perceive the world the same way that you do. And I think you totally nailed that with the critical conversations, because you could be thinking it's a critical conversation and the other person's like, what, this isn't a big deal. Like, this isn't a big conversation. And I think that's that false pretense that a lot of people will give off, right, of that perfectionism. And I was guilty of it. I always call myself a recovering perfectionist, right? I wanted to be portrayed as a perfection, but that was like almost spitting in my past history's face, like, I've been through a lot, but I never wanted to really tell people. And that's why I think that this show even existed. Like, I always wanted to know what people sucked at. What did they fail at? What are you afraid of? So my last question of today is like, Jim, what was one thing that you did in business that was like your biggest mistake or your biggest failure? And what'd you take away from that?
Yeah. One thought first, you mentioned this perception of the world and how most people believe that their perception is everybody's. There's actually a psychological term or idea called other minds problem. And what other minds problem means is that when you're a little kid, think about when you're a little kid, you like peanut butter and jelly. So everybody must like peanut butter and jelly, and you can't conceive that anybody else would not love it because you love it. And when you grow into adulthood, that philosophy in your mind should lessen and you should have more perspective, but it's always there. Right. And so when you apply that to what we're talking about, there's something that I'm afraid to do, or there's something that is hard for me, or there's something that I like that I'm drawn to. So I assume the world feels that way, and it's very different. So that's something that we're born with. And it's something that needs to be developed over time.
But does that happen naturally, right? Because like we said, natural, if we're afraid, that's where, like in leadership, everybody surround yourself with yes people is most people's tendency.
Right.
And just like you're saying, they should evolve, but if their natural tendency is like, I only want to hang out with people that love peanut butter and jelly.
Yes.
Then it comforts me knowing like this is right. Like I am right. See, everybody loves peanut butter and jelly. And I think we just explained the microcosm of social media. Now everybody's got the same idea because this algorithm is telling me like, look at all these people. And it brings me back to this book about change that I read. And I don't know if you recommended it. I can't remember. It's a book called Change and it talks about it, but it was why people change and do things differently. And the last thing that most people would admit was that they saw somebody else do it first. They'd be like, oh, I heard it. I heard it here and I just decided to do it. They would never admit that was the reason why they actually made the change.
Wow.
And that's why it's to your point of what you're saying. And I love that. Other minds problems. I can't wait to dive into that. But that really, that struck a chord because I think your natural habit to step outside that comfort zone, even in relationships or conversations, like you've been saying, helps build that perspective and grow that perspective. But you got to start with the willingness too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. My biggest mistake or learning, I would say that there's probably two. Let me see if I can verbalize this one. I've always wanted to lead and build a team that people want to be part of and that holds a high level of performance, accountability. I want folks from the outside to be like, I want to be in that division, or I want to be here. And I have done that over my career by driving, number one, driving really good results. That you have to have that, or else it has no credibility. But then at times driving the belief that we are the very, very best. And that's a healthy belief, but it can become unhealthy when that belief on your team alone becomes larger than the company. And I've driven that culture before. And it was apparent many, many years ago when we do engagement surveys, at this company and previous company that I worked with. This was at a previous company. And there was a point in time where in my role, my team and my personal engagement survey was the highest in the company. And we were very, very proud of that. What was not good, though, was that the opinion of the company within my team was lower than some of the other parts of the company.
Okay.
And what I never, ever did, I'm always loyal to the company. I'm always a company person. But what I realized, the culture that I created, this belief that we are bigger than the actual mission, the actual company that we work for. And that was a really critical learning. And there were very legitimate frustrations within my team toward the company that we worked for. But what I realized my role was to better identify that and be a better enterprise leader and help bridge the gap in between the company and my team. Does that make sense? And
absolutely.
So it's so that was a great learning. I've carried that with me, and I do think that every leader, no matter who you work for, your role is to be the local expression of the culture of your company. No matter what your team thinks of you, if that is broken anywhere, that it's on you to fix. And it's on you to fix by being courageous, by bringing forward what changes need to be made, if that may be the case, by helping fix communication if communication needs to be fixed. But it is not healthy if that stays, because in that state, if that leader leaves, now what?
Yeah.
I have a group of folks who don't have trust in the company. They had trust in one person.
Absolutely.
And that person's role was to fix that. So that was a key learning for me. And it's funny because as I was getting all these pats, I was like, no, I appreciate it. I'm really concerned that I have failed to help with what needs to be helped with. I don't want credit for this. I think this is actually a big opportunity for us, and we're going to fix it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, Jim, awesome. I thought about that last night, man, when I was going on the way to the practice, because I can really take over a room, Jim, if you can imagine.
No.
And like when we celebrated like the first pick and roll we landed, to make sure it wasn't about me and my thoughts on getting the offense together. Yeah. Right? You saw the execution, but I did a little prayer before I walked in the building. I said, just God, make this not about me. Just, use me as a vessel to get these dang kids back on defense, right? But I did catch myself a few times. I was like catching a little fire. We were getting some momentum, and I was like, okay, this isn't your doing, man. We're all in this together. Without you, without me, we're nothing. And this idea I have, guess what? It didn't come from me. I learned it from someone else.
It's awesome.
And just trying to take ownership of that. It's hard to do. Because you get that little sense in your gut, like I'm about to rally because of what I did. It's not because of what I did. But I can see the fine line, Jim, on because you do have to have a little fire under your butt, to get things going, a little creativity on how to deliver and execute. But just you nailed it though, not like celebrating yourself. Because of what you came up with that you really didn't come up with. It's kind of what anyway, but guys, we're kind of up on the hour here, man. That was a fast one.
Yeah. It was fast. Yeah.
I wish I was in Arizona. And I feel like Jim and I got to pick this man's brain even more, but
Jim, so
book of knowledge. So I appreciate everything you shared.
Comfort Crisis. Was that the book, Jim?
Comfort Crisis. Yeah. Michael Easter, Comfort Crisis. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with Timeout with Leaders, I hope you guys had a fun time with the VP of Ops over at Pilot with Jim Rose here. And Jim, I'm just glad to be your friend, man. My last question. So I look up to you in a person that like gets me going, Jim. Like I know you're probably doing more than me today. Is like my mindset about you. If you didn't know that. Well, who's that person for you? Ooh, man, that's a really good question.
And you have to really know him. You can't be some celebrity goof off that just does this for a living. Who's that dude out there who you're like, dude, I think Brad's whooping my ass today? Because that's how I think about Jim Rose.
Yeah, there's a couple folks. One of the, there's a couple folks in the group that I talked about, without a doubt, that we keep each other motivated. The other one is spiritual for me. It's Jesus Christ. Right. And I wake up every day and, there's one day that I'm going to be asked why I should be let in. And I want to be able to say the man in the middle cross that I can be here. Yeah. And so, And so that is, those are the things that I think about as I go through life, and how can I interact with people in a way that honors that. So that's who it is for me.
I love that you put it that way, because I think without that, it's challenging to get there on your own. I think it's like for you to truly forgive yourself and to truly love yourself without knowing that somebody else loves you unconditionally. Yeah. Most of us have never experienced unconditional love. And for me, that was the only way that I broke through over the weekend, to be honest. So that was, it got back to, it was like, holy shit, if he forgives me, and he used a murderer to free slaves from Egypt, like I can't even imagine what else that he's capable of. Sure. So I always appreciate when people are willing to share their faith, because I think I think everybody was fearing judgment and how people would react to that, and I think that's that ultimately is what the other guy wants. So I think they want you to be afraid to share that. So thanks for that courage as well.
100%. Thank you guys. It was awesome to see you.
Yeah, man. We'll sign off right here and just wait one.